Walker. To my far left over here is Gary Lawrence and Mike Luna, and I think Dusty's done left out on us over here. This afternoon, we are blessed and have the pleasure of being able to talk to Terry Goins. Terry, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Man, it's a pleasure to have you here. How did you get started in racing? Were you like a first generation racer?
My dad drag raced back in the early 60s and just got to go into dirt racing, and I like dirt racing better than I did the drag racing. And one of my great uncles and my uncle and them, they tried it, but I'd always try to get Daddy to go to dirt racing instead of going drag racing. And I always told him, I said, "You're big enough, I'm gonna have me one." Well, Lord and behold, he blessed me.
Yeah.
I got one, and man, oh man.
That's when all the fireworks started then at your house, right?
Pretty much.
How old was he then when you started?
Hold on. I was 24-year-old when first card I bought. Wayne Smith and Keith Longmore and them, I was running with them. They from up in Wartburg.
You were going to the races yourself,
I was going with them guys, and
helping them on their car.
that, and then the one that really got me hooked on it was Archie Freeman and Charlie Jackson. And went with them, and then sort of broke away and got to run them with my buddies, but still running with them.
Were y'all just going to Wartburg?
Archie and them, they would go to Wartburg. Wartburg was closed at that time. They was going to Tazewell, Atomic, up toward Pine Knot, Kentucky, just right outside of Oneida, just different places like that, and then followed them. And I just kept wanting one, and then in 1983, I bought a 55 Chevrolet that Wayne Smith had and run it. And that old car, you didn't know 1 minute next. 1 minute they go in the corner fine, next time you go in there, you tear the walls down, you think.
But you didn't have the blessing of your dad at all, right?
No, my dad told me, he said, son, said, you ever buy a race car? He said, I'm gonna tell you. He said, you still here at home? He said, you're gonna pay some bills around here. I said, okay. And Lord and behold, I bought it that winter. And I come in one day and he put his arm up around my neck and he said, I heard you bought a race car. I said, I'll see you, I got to go. I hit the door. He done that about 4 or 5 times, and I made a mistake one night just like today. He sat behind next to the wall. He just picks that table up, he slams it over where I couldn't run. He said, now you won't run. He said, I heard you bought your race car. I said, well, I need to get out. I'll tell you. He said, you ain't going nowhere. He said, did you buy a car? And I said, yes, sir. He said, all right. He said, you're going to start paying your way around here. And he kept telling me the whole time, he said, son, said, if you'll get rid of it, said, it won't cost you a dime. I said, ain't getting rid of it. I thought awful hard about it when that first light bill come in, and he said, we'll half of it. And, you know, just got out of school. Well, I'd been out of school, but still I didn't have a real good job. And I said, Dad, I ain't making enough money. They'll pay this light bill. I said, cut me a slack. He said, the way you're going to get him slack cut is get rid of that car. I said, I paid the light bill.
Where was the first racetrack that you ran at?
First racetrack I went to was Atomic.
Atomic, wow. Well, what a eye-opening experience, right?
Yes, sir, it was. It was a memory that you'll never forget.
And you had the 55 Chevrolet that you was just talking about.
Had the 55 Chevrolet, and then Archie and them, back before they had just redone Tazewell to the new configuration it is now. And he was going up there to it, and they had the class that I was running in up there. And
What division was that called?
it was, well, Mike, what didn't they call us?
Modified sportsman, maybe? Is that
Something like it. It was a hobby class. I think that's what one of the pictures I showed you. It says
But it's a
hobby.
little more, I mean, we had good engines
Yeah.
Yeah.
and open tires, I'm pretty sure.
So we went up there and just kept on, boy. I mean, we was close to winning, and something had happened, or I'd spin out.
Right off the bat?
Yeah.
You pretty much just took off.
It took me a little bit, but I got the swing of it and
Yeah.
got to go.
I was gonna ask you, what's your first impression of like first laps, you know? Like,
It took my breath, you know.
Yeah.
You thought you was really flying.
Yeah.
Come in and said something, and they all went to snigger, and they said, "You want to go on no wars?" I said, "Boy, it sure does feel like it, you know."
I tell everybody, like, my first time that I ever went to Atomic, as small as it was, the way it was banked up, you got that sensation of speed. I mean, it set you over the seat that
Yes,
quick.
it would.
It was fast. It's fast.
Bill Austin, you know, he's got the best story I ever heard on that when he had that grudge race with that stunt guy at Sparta. That guy outrun him in a regular car. He was in Fat Cat's race car that I was helping on at the time. And he said, I thought I was a flying. He wouldn't barely go. I bet I barely go in the street car outrunning him.
It's like Rocky was talking about the first race he drove. They come up to lap him. He said it was the fastest car there, but they come up to lap him in about 3 laps, and then put the bumper to him, took him way down in the corner. You know, so
It'll change your mind.
Yeah.
I got that done a time or two,
but it didn't take you that long. Then you was pretty much you got took off pretty quick.
I was pretty fortunate. I had good people that was around me that had done it and sort of coached you. You know, put myself in a decent position at that point in time to teach you a little something. And so then that winter, I decided I was going to try to step it up further, and that was in '84 when Wartburg had been shut down, and Keith Lomar and Wayne Smith had took it over, and we went up there all through the winter cutting trees and fixing the bleachers and press blocks and stuff, and Keith had the car that he run for sale, and I wound it up and bought it and helped him get the tractor going. And through the year, like I say, my dad, he didn't want no part of it, and I was doing it all by myself, piece by piece, and finally got to take it up there in '84 that year.
Was it still a frame car that you?
It was a Camaro front clip with a 55 frame rail with a back half a tube car. It was an old car that Jack Trammell had and sold it to, can't think of his first name, but we called him Hawkeye Hawkins. That was his last name, was Hawkins.
Was it a multi-leaf car?
It was a leaf spring car. And I went to Wartburg the first time I took it out. They wasn't but 4 races left in '84 when I got it finished. The first night I run second. And I'd bought some new tires, but they was the wrong compound. And I know my dad had told me, he said, "Don't ask me for no money," he said, "You ain't gonna get it." And I remember at work, I called over JT Curves, and JT said, "I got a set, I'll sell you." I said, "What do you want for them?" And I think back in, it was like all 4 of them was like $200 or $250. And I knowed I didn't have enough coming in that week, so I remember calling my dad, and I said, "I need a favor." He said, "What's that?" I said, "I need to borrow some money, but don't ask me for what it's for." He said, "Well, what's it for?" I said, "If I tell you, you ain't gonna let me have it, so I ain't gonna tell you, I ain't gonna lie to you." And he said, "Well, if you want the money," he said, "you'll tell me." And I said, "I ain't telling you." Well, I hung up and called him back. I said, "I tell you if you'll promise me you give me the money if I tell you the truth." He said, "Tell me what it is." I said, "I ordered my 4 tires." He said, "Well, go ahead and get them." I said, "Well, I ain't done tell him go ahead and get them. I done ordered them. I was going to figure out how to pay for them." And
Who's going to win the race?
he said, "All right." So I left it on the trailer that week up until Saturday. I mean, it was done, cleaned up stuff, but I had a carburetor issue, and the only thing else needed to be done was mount them tires. Well, we went to Wartburg that night, and that's the only thing I done is put the tires on it and had the carburetor redone. And that was my first win. Biggest win.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I won it, and I didn't know my dad and mom had come and was in the grandstands. And his uncle, which would have been my great uncle, they had an old car that they run in the street class, and they had a guy going to drive it for them. And that's the first time he'd ever got out. My cousin would come over with me when I started. He come over and he said, "Hey," I said, "Yeah." He said, "Kyle and need the driver." He said, "I told him you drive it." I said, "Yeah, I promise. I thought Mike was going to." And that was the guy's name. He said, "He's over our pale as all get out." I said, I had to take him, put a little water on him. So I thought he was going to pass out. I said, "Okay." So we worked it, and I run mine, and then run theirs, and blow the transmission line. I had to start last and come toward the front with it. Well, Daddy didn't know that it was me.
Oh, okay.
And so we got home and got to talk about it, and I told him, I said, "That's me." And he said, well, they told me afterwards. He said, "I thought it was one of them Kyle's sons." I said, "No." He said, "All right." Well, we went to Wartburg again the next week, and I won.
2 in a row.
And when I did, they tore me down.
Oh, okay.
No, I take that back. I run second to second. First time they tore me down. The first night I won, they tore me down. And I remember asking Wayne Smith, the tech guy, I said, "Wayne, what did they get me on?" He said, "Well, they're gonna, if you cheat, you just got caught." I said, "Well, tell me what I got caught, what I'm gonna get caught on." He said, "You gotta pull a head, gotta pull oil pans, and we're gonna check a wheelbase, and we're gonna check a motor setback, and we want a little fuel sample." I said, "Well, Wayne, you know the motor's legal. You done the machine work." I said, "Check a wheelbase and the motor setback." I said, "'Cause I ain't checked it." I said, "I bought it from you all. I don't know whether it's legal or not." He said, "Well, you know it is." I said, "You helped us on it." I said, "I never did measure it." I said, "If you're gonna bust me, that's where you're gonna get me." And when they did, I said, "Check it first." He looked at me and said, "It's good." So we just pulled the head, the oil pan off of it. When they did, they said, "You're good." So I collected their money, and then the next week went back and I run second to Jim Brummond. Well, when we did, for some reason they didn't run the third week, but the next time we went back, and me and Jim was on the front row together. And Jim was, he's one of my buddies. I mean, him and Charlie and Archie and them guys, you know, they was just like a big brother to me.
Right.
And I know Jim was bad about cheating. I just go ahead and call it like it is. Jim was bad about slipping one of them 400s in on me. And I got sick. Daddy looked at me and he said, "If he beats you," he said, "we're going to look at it." I said, "We ain't going to have to worry about it." I said, "I'll beat him." He looked over at me. He said, "Son," said, "I know I've been rough on you." He said, "But you ain't going to outrun that 400. I said, "You just give me an inch and I'll show you." And I'll never forget it. We come down the back straightaway. Jim, I sort of lagged him back, and I kept watching him. He'd turn and look over his left shoulder to see where it's at. I thought, "Oh boy, you keep looking, I'm going to smoke you right here in just a minute." We rolled off in the corner, and I seen that head come back. It went back. I thought, one more time. And it is like watching a Christmas tree at a drag race. As soon as I seen that head start to turn, I was gone. And I won it, but now he was all over me. I ain't going to take nothing from him. But I remember pulling in the pits. When I did, my dad standing there and had his hand up there, and I walked up to him. I told him, I said, "I told you that." He said, "I wouldn't have believed it." That's what I told you. Keep your money in your pocket. Old Jim come up to me and grabbed me by the neck. And he looked at me. He said, "I know I'm cheating." He said, "You got to be too." I said, "Well, we'll never know, will we?" Well, that's what got me hooked. And then my dad, after that, anything I wanted, he told me, he said, "Son, I'll help you." He said, "We may not be able to buy every week, may not be able to buy the best of the best right now." He said, "But I promise you I'll help you." He said, "But I don't think I can ask you." So what's that? He said, be legal." I said, "All right." So I come up in '85 when I won the championship. I won 17 features that year.
17.
And won 10 in a row at Wartburg. And the old boy from up at New Tazewell, his name was Randy Tharp. And he walked up to me and put his arm around my neck, and he told me, he said, "Hey," he said, "I'm tired of looking back in them taillights." He said, "Won't you come run me at Tazewell?" I said, "I'll come up there." I said, "We'll go try it." And so when we did, little bit forward, got a little bit ahead of myself. Jerry Whitey from Jamestown built my motor. And the first night that motor was built, it was put together 6 hours. It ain't even been 6 hours when we pulled it back out of the car. We come to Wartburg, rolled it off the trailer, warmed it up, hot lapped it, shut it off. I come in, we checked the plugs, rejigged it, and he said, stand on it. I won the heat, won the feature, and when I come off the track, they said, you've been protested. I said, okay, give it time to cool down. And I said, what do they want to look at? And he said, they want to pull a head and oil pan. I said, all right, I'm going to pull it back out. So we got everything ready and had a record come over to it. Picked it up. We pulled the oil pan off of it. He said, it's legal. Jury looked at him. Randy Weaver's daddy, Glenn, was with him. And they said, getting rags? I said, yes. Getting duct tape? I said, yeah. He said, get it. He looked at them boys and he said, which end you boys want to pull? They told him. When they got ready, they pulled the head up off of it, and we just wrapped it up in a towel and set it down in the trailer. But he crammed rags down the other cylinders and up in the lifter gallery. But on that one piston, where it had the part number up there on the top, he took a piece of gray tape and put it up the top of the piston. Somebody just kept trying to reach in there to pull that rag out. He'd catch his hand. And you didn't pay to see that. Right here. So when I went to do it again, he looked at him and told him, for enough money, we'll build you one just like it. But then, background, you heard somebody said, blankety blank. Said, look there, so they're running duct tape on top of the pistons. Well, all they done, it was just covering the part number.
Yeah, right.
So they took it, and then we went to Tazewell to run Tharp, and me and him got to playing mind games of getting in line to see who qualified. I said, I'm going to wait and let him qualify. Well, they finally come and told me, he said, get in line or you ain't going to qualify. I said, tell him go ahead and get in line, and I'll get in line behind him. He said, no. I said, I said for you. Well, I went up there to qualify, and I don't remember what it was, but it was a number like I went we'll say a 4-5 with a 6. He went a 4-5 with a 2.
Wow.
And that put us both starting side by side. Well, the old dude come down there at the trailer. Man shouldn't tell this on himself, but I will. And he said, I need to borrow gear. I said, need to borrow gear? What gear you need? He told me. I said, but I'd loan it to you. I said, that's what I got in it. Well, we done been sitting there telling him. I told him, I said, well, all depends where he puts me. We could have some gear to get up off there. I said, but I got that gear in the car. As soon as they left, I looked over at my cousin. I said, let's change it. I run to the trailer, or back of the truck, and opened my gearbox up. And I remember laying the set out. For some odd reason or other, I put that set back in it and don't know how we pulled it off. But we wanted to put a 658 gear in it, and I wound it up and put a 608 in it.
Oh, man.
So I know when I hit the gas,
Yeah.
I thought, oh, Lord, there's a big difference here. And that track had dried out just enough, and evidently I timed it right and got him on the start. But I could see him and hear him down under me. And when it's over with, he walked over to me and he told me, he said, I guess you've been a mirror driving me. I said, but there ain't no way. I said, there ain't even a mirror in that fucking thing for to be a mirror driving you. I said, if you think I'm lying, come look at it. He said, I don't know what it is. He said, I can't beat it. Well, JT and him was up there. And I run over there and bought the clutch stuff. I thought the clutch was slipping in it. So we made arrangements, made that 2.5-hour trip back home that night, and it's late. I told him, I said, we'll be back here early in the morning. We'll get ready. We'll go to Wartburg. And when we did, I had pretty much everything done. I was changing the clutch. I pulled the cover off. I know what gear that I needed for Wartburg. So I went to get it. And I looked there and I said, Ira said I was wanting to put in it that night, and I pulled the one out of the back. So I went ahead and put the gear in it, and they all got there. I said, let's get that transmission out. I said, boys, we don't have to. I said, we made a bad mistake. I said, I put the wrong gear in it. So, I mean, just stuff like that.
Yeah, what did you night?
It was just one of them nights.
Yeah.
Couldn't do no wrong, was well blessed.
Tazewell, it's a different animal up there too, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole lot different being at Wartburg and being at Tazewell.
I'm going to tell you something. Out of my experience, it's a big difference at Tazewell than it was being at Atomic, because I remember being on the front straightaway sitting there, and if you was looking straight out ahead, you had to take your head and push it back to the right to be able to be looking straight out there. Otherwise, you're looking sideways, you know.
Yeah.
But then J. Paul Smith opened up at Crossville in 1986 now. Run there on Friday nights and go to Wartburg and run on Saturday nights.
So you raced a whole lot.
Yeah, I did. Done it up until 2000, and that was before motors got to.
Had you changed classes between there?
No, I was going to stay in the hobby class because of being a working person,
Sure.
individual. You really couldn't afford it, but it was something that I was competitive in.
Right.
And so the next year they cut that class out, and I was going to have to move up and run limiteds.
Okay.
And I said, I can't do that. And I kept sitting there and put everything up, and we went trade show over at Chill Highway Park. And Warrior Race Cars was over at Goddard's and them, and they had a brand new one sitting there, and I kept looking at it, and boy, I'd like to have that. Because I'd parked that PRC car. I'd got rid of the one I won the championship in '85 and bought a new PRC from Jerry Minton down in Douglasville, Georgia.
But that would have been like a late model car?
It was a Camaro clip car with a
Okay.
tube frame because they told us we had to be Camaro clips. Well, once we got that car back, they opened it up to a tube frame car. And so that's where I met Mike. Mike had one from Jerry Minton.
PRC.
85, yeah, and 86.
It was Mike. Clay Kelly had one. Leroy Van had one around here locally. And so running it, and then when I come back, I had that new Warrior. And I'll never forget it. Second or third race on it, Billy Palmer, y'all talked about him in one of your shows there, you know. He was leading it, and I started, well, he was on the front row, and I started like first or fifth. And the time we take a green and we get to turns 1 and 2, I done come from fifth to second and be on Billy. And I'll never forget it. We come off of 3 and 4 and come down the front straightaway, and I had him set up, and we rolled off from 1 and 2. I got down under him and pulled him up off a corner, and I thought, well, we're strolling here. Rolled off down into 3 and 4, and I went just touch a brake just to check it. There wasn't no brake, and I thought, row, it's going to hurt. At that time, it turned, and when it did, it come up, and it hit a light pole where the caution light and stuff. It had enough time to get set back down and roll back across. And I was unbuckling the seat belts when Billy come by. My brother said, let's go home. I said, Chucks, no, I'm staying here. We paid to get in to watch the race. I'm going to watch the race. He said, I'm going home. I said, y'all take the car home with you. I know Daddy's going to be upset. And brother said, when he got home, said, he walked in, said, Daddy's asleep. He said, what are you doing home? He said, we just come home. He said, he wrecked the thing, didn't he? He said, Daddy's a flying. He said, he totaled it, didn't he? He said, Daddy, he's a flying. He said, it ain't bent. So Daddy got up out of the recliner and said he went out there and said he took one of them yardsticks and laid up through the side of the frame. It just might have been knocked over about that far. He said, it didn't bend the blankety blank thing either. When I come in, boy, he was mad. I wouldn't go because I went to church on Sunday morning. Mama had always had dinner cooked.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I said, told my wife, I said, you can go by Mom and bring me a plate. I'm taking his time, same place as Daddy. Daddy finally come over, and I mean, I was sore. Went to church, you know, and men shaking your hands. And then about that time, somebody smacked me in the back where my back was sore.
This was a topic, right?
No, this was a Warburg.
No, this was Wartburg, okay.
And he come over, and he said, get up, let's go. So where we going? He said, we're going to merch rooms. You heard, ain't you? I said, I'm going to no merch room. We'll be all right. But my dad's been good to me. I mean, good Lord bless me with a dad. I mean, he was rough on me.
Yeah.
But he always taught me. He said, boys, give you a friendly piece of advice. I said, what's that? He said, world don't owe you nothing. He said, what you get out of it's what you make out of it.
Right.
So my mom, she wasn't keen on it. She'd fuss at you and say you're just wasting your money, but you could rest assured every year she wouldn't. She didn't want nobody to know nothing about it. She'd give you $400 or $500, and
Right.
she'd say, "I don't ask for no more."
Right.
You know.